All right, today I am tackling my new Belle Epoch stencils. I am so in love with these. They're very influenced by Alphonse Mucha, who was a painter, I guess during the Gilded Age. I forget the actual period, but kind of during the times of Art Nouveau, definitely an Art Nouveau painter. And his artwork appeared on labels, on posters for advertising. He was a very ornate painter. And so I knew I wanted to do a set that was influenced by an artist. I want to do more of these. And so this is the first set that I did. So they're very detailed. And so I wanted to give you some tips on how I have them turn out. So I just did this one, and I did it on Instagram. The glue is dry. I like to add a little bling on these, but just super, super fun. So I want to give you some tips for the most success. So again, you know, the easiest thing to do is just get a nice paint, like an acrylic paint. I use these mini blending tools from Ranger. This is a domed foam. And I go through the stencil with paint. This is the wrong one, but you know, I go through the stencil with paint, and maybe we can do those at the end. And then I'll use watercolors to color them. They come out a little different, but this would be the closest to using the stencil to get like a stamped image, right? So you will come out with this image that you can then go and color in. I like to color in with watercolors. It's just the easiest thing for me. You can use colored pencils, you can use acrylic paint, whatever floats your boat. But today, I'm going to show you how I use these like templates. So the effect is going to be more illustrative when you're done. And it's just kind of how I like to roll. So here are some quick tips so you don't get too frustrated, because it's definitely a more time-consuming process. So you know, than just some of the other stencils. So I'm using this like a template. And again, the beauty of stencils is that you can have images face each other. So if you want to duplicate images, you can just flip-flop them. That's a little harder to achieve with stamps. Anyway, so what I have been doing to decrease the frustration for myself is I'll do a general outline of the face, and I'll get that kind of going, because that is going to be the part where the details matter the most. So if you do a beautiful job on the body and you get everything going perfect, and then you go to the face at the end and it doesn't come out the way you like, you know, you're probably going to toss it and get real frustrated. So what I do often is I'll just do a very loose kind of face, and I'll start there, so that if when I'm done my face doesn't come out the way I like, then I can start again. So it's just for me, it's a better way to work, because I'm not perfect. I make mistakes all the time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to play with this stencil. How did I trace it? Do I like how it came out? Do I want to alter any of the lines? I do go through and I kind of join all the little bridges, the little open spaces, just to have those there. And then once that's done, I got the face done. Let's bring this over and down so you can see a lot better. I forgot to put lotion on my hands, so excuse the dry skin. I watched my YouTube or my Instagram video. I'm like, oh my gosh, my hands look raw. And then play around, make a puddle. So I am creating a good amount of my skin tone first. So I'm going to play around with the colors. I'm going to get it to where I want, and I'm going to create enough in there to do this space. If you're going to do a darker color, that's fine. Just make sure that, again, you're creating enough to color it in. Now, I am starting to just cheat because you get smoother lines. So I'm not going to worry about all the extraneous stuff, really. I'm going to hit all the spots where the skin tone needs to be, but I want to work quickly because I want it to be as smooth as possible. And if I go over the hair, that's fine. And I like to add my colors in here now. So like if I want to add, ooh, that's a lot. That's okay. It'll dry later, but my skin, you know, like some little cheek color or highlights, you kind of want to do that while it's wet. Okay. Now, I never do this on videos, so you might want to just turn your sound off for a minute. I'm going to use my heating gun to dry this so I can get to the next step, and you don't have to sit there waiting. This cheek is really bright, so I'm just going to re-wet the skin color. Hold on. Just so I get it perfect, like how I want it. Okay, that's a lot better. All right, and now I'm gonna just dry it real quick. Because I'm gonna put like a darker hair color, then I can be sloppy around where the hair and the details, like I'll put brighter colors on here. This way you get a nice smooth skin tone. So there's two ways to go about seeing if you have made a, you know, like if it's gonna turn out okay. So you can use a Stabilo All, which I have here. This is a watercolor pencil. I use them all the time, but they're very bold. So if you want to use this to outline your face, you want to put the lightest amount of pressure. And then as you go for the outlines, let's say, you can then you can use water on the edge, or you can just give it a rub so that you've kind of smudged it. I think it's a lot easier to use the microns. And again, you know, you're gonna have a bolder outline. So here I use the Stabilo, and I just kept it really, really sharp so I could get a fine line. And I didn't wet it. I just kind of rubbed it along the edge. I did get it wet here, but on the face, I tend not to because it can be bold. Maybe I did just a little bit by the eyes. But today we're just going to use the micron. So I recommend like 005, 001, or at the thickest, maybe an 02. It gives a nice line. So I'm going to now trace this. As best I can. Oops. Okay. And I'm going to do a little nose. little nostril there. Okay. I'm just gonna hit this with the dryer. Okay. Just to make sure this is dry. So I missed, I don't know if you can see, I missed a small part of the pencil line, but now that the marker is dry, I can just erase the pencil line. I'm going to get a round brush, one of the thinner ones. I don't even, this says 4. I never look at the sizes. And I'm just gonna get a little bit of light blue. I don't want it uber wet, so if it seems like it's too wet, you can just touch it. Now it's too dry. You can just touch it on a paper towel. Okay. And I just put a little drop. So, you know, watercolors are way more vibrant when they're wet, and then when they dry, they're going to look a lot more toned down. I'm going to create some lip color here. I just play around with colors until I get something I like. And the key with the lips here, you could just leave them like that, but they pop when you give them some color. So I don't go all the way to the top, and you can experiment with these, but I just do like a little half heart, and then on the bottom the same thing. So if you were to look at it this way, it almost looks like a heart, and then you've got some nice lips. The key is to go light in the beginning, so go a couple shades lighter than you think you want, and it'll probably come out perfect. Sometimes I'll do just a little bit of color above the eyelid as well. It just adds a nice little shading. I'm gonna hit this with the heating tool again. This is the one time I use heating tools to speed up watercolors. I don't do it with acrylics so much, but with watercolor I do. So now I'm going to make her pupil. So I just do like a little disc in the front, and then I'm losing the sun now. It's like so bright, and then I'm losing it. And then I add just like a little white dot that's a catch light in there. So now I can say, oh great, I didn't mess up her face. This is when I go back in and start tracing the rest of the stencil. So, you know, again, you can just line everything up and then continue on. I do this because faces are tricky. If for some reason you make the lips too dark, or you accidentally use too much marker or something along those lines, it's super noticeable, and it kind of just, you know, one weird eyeball situation, and then it just looks weird. So that's why I don't do the whole thing and finish the face at the end. I just give a loose beginning, and then I go from there. So that way it's not so bad. So because I'm going to go over this with pen, I'm not going to worry so much about getting all the bridges filled, because I'm just going to go over them. So now I'm going to do her hair. So I'm trying to think. I guess I've been just doing orange hair because it's easier to go over that. So I'm going to do like a darker orange. I probably need to change the hair color for a couple of these, but for the sake of the video, we're just gonna do this orange color because it will go over this particular skin tone pretty easily. If you have a very dark skin tone, then, you know, maybe give her black hair for some nice contrast. And don't worry about these because you can come back and trace them with paint pens. And, you know, that's kind of how I work as well. I don't just use watercolor on the whole thing. I'm using paint pens, and it's why it's called mixed media. I'm not a watercolor purist by any means. And because I know I'm going to be coming in with pens, I can go over the lines too. It just makes a smoother line than trying to get in the top. Now, I forgot to do her skull cap. So I'm going to heat this up again. This is why I love using the heating tool. I almost never use it in videos, but it really is such an awesome tool for drawing watercolors. So I forgot to do her little hat thing. Okay. And then you can mix and match. And this is why I love templates. So it could be fun to just leave this and give her a hat, which I haven't been doing, and change the stencil all around. So I've been talking about collage. I think it would be fun to cut some collage and make this into hats. So I think I'm just going to do that later. I mean, I have my collage here, and I could do that now, but I didn't want to keep you guys. And I'm going to remember to flip it, just like we talked about in the last video. I could do it for the whole shape, actually. That might be good, because that's kind of the hat. I lost my pen cap. Oh well. All right. I just think this is going to look fabulous with her orange hair. I think we can move this up a little bit now. Sorry. I move the camera with my hands. Probably not so professional, but that's okay. And I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger than my tracing, because again, like I had mentioned in the last video, you want to make sure that you get your coverage. Look at that. That looks fabulous. Okay. So I can glue that on. There's my cap. And this is what templates are all about. So these stencils, you know, they're there as a quick guide, and then it's up to you to say, I want to keep this, I want to eliminate that. You know what I mean? And that's why I love them. You know, again, with stamps, you get a finite image, but here, you know, you really have the opportunity to play around with things and make them different. That's an 05. I think that, yeah. I want it a little darker. And you guys know me, I'm not a perfectionist, so that is kind of how I work. So now she's got this cool hat. So I'm going to outline it with the pen. And I made a little boo-boo, but that's okay because we'll just make it look a little more on purpose. We'll do a couple. Remember, I call it doodle trickery. Okay. And then we can go ahead and just keep going over the details, and then you can decide how you want your lady to work. So because I did a darker color for her hair, I think for this I'm probably going to end up using some paint pens to color in these little doodly spots. And since we're going with the green theme, these will just pop so nicely. And I can use these these are the Moonlight Jelly Roll pens from Sakura. And they're great. So I hope I gave you some helpful tips on just how to kind of work with these stencils and add the details you want. You can see here I started this one. I just did her skin tone to see if I got that right. And then next I'll go in and start playing with her face and see if I like it. But if I don't, then I don't have to commit to the whole thing. I can do another one. But it's just super fun. And I wanted to at least have one video on here where I showed you how I achieve my results. It is pretty easy. And I just think you're gonna love these images. So definitely play around, play with the collage, experiment with using the pen and the pencil. And I didn't even mention, you know, a lot of watercolor looks great with just pencil lines. So there's no reason to even outline it if you don't want to with a Stabilo or a pen. You could definitely just choose to use pencil and it'll come out great too. But if you do these and you love it, just please tag me. I can only share your stuff in my stories if you have a public account, and I sadly find out most people don't. But anyway, I will be back to share some more inspiration really soon.